Hey, how's it going? I'm Mike Squires. This is Couchers Podcast, episode number 157. My guest, Janet Robin. Janet Robbins, formerly of the 80s LA based all female glam metal band Precious Metal. She played as a side player for Lindsey Buckingham. She's got a band called String Revolution. You should check that out. They're killer. She composes for film and television. She also teaches. And if you're looking for a killer instructor or guitar coach, I think as she calls herself, hit her up, janetrobin.com, or hit her up on social media at Janet Robin. I don't know how she came up with that. She's right. I had such an amazing, yeah, like if you watch this, you're going to see that we clearly had a fun time talking a bunch of shit. She's fucking great. Um, Thank you so much for watching and listening. I hope that you enjoyed this as much as I did because I enjoyed it a lot. If you're enjoying the podcast, please consider supporting us at Patreon, patreon.com/Couchers. Now, I've got some ambitious and crazy ideas stewing around in my head, and I'm going to make them a reality. And your support at Patreon will absolutely help. And I thank each and every person who supports over there now, and thank you for considering. So thank you. Also, thank you to River City Guitars, rivercityguitars.com. If you don't live in the Western states, if you do, they're a rad little guitar store in Spokane, quickly expanding and specializing in vintage, used, and generally cool stuff, guitars mostly, but you're going to find all kinds of stuff over there. All kinds of stuff. Every day is a buying day at River City Guitars. So if if you're sitting on something interesting or you've got a collection that you want to move, reach out to them. Okay. 509-818-7693. Ask for Bobby. Tell him Squire sent you. It'll help somewhat. We're pals. Or drop him an email, sales.rivercityguitars@gmail.com. Send him a picture. Again, tell him Squire sent you. Tell him what you got. They're down to sell, wheel deal, trade, who knows? I don't know what you got, but they're great. I wouldn't send you anywhere that I wouldn't go to do stuff myself, and I would trust these guys wholeheartedly. In fact, this thing here came from River City. Oh, baby. Yeah, you got what I need. Don't forget the golden rule. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And try to not be an asshole.
Hey, Mike.
Hello.
How are you? You hear me
How-
okay?
I can hear you perfectly. How are you?
I'm good. Good. Look at you. You're all like got this pro setup shit. Have
Yeah, I mean,
this.
until I scroll my view around the room.
Right, right. Oh, I love the hanging guitars in the back. Awesome.
Yeah, I did that you do a lot to keep yourself busy in the last year, right?
Right. Going on 2 years now.
Man. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
What's
Anyway.
your what's your day to day like on that speed? Like we just jump right into it, I guess. But
Yeah.
it's
My student, uh, my guitar student signups or whatever you want to call it spiked up quite a bit. I always had a kind of a gaggle of students anyway. For when I'm not on the road and busy with other stuff, I always have a group of students. I love to teach and pass on what I was taught. But yeah, I think a lot of people just sitting around were like, "Hey, I want to, get back to guitar, or I want to, try learning how to play, or whatever." So, and everything's on Zoom. All my students are on Zoom and new ones, and so Mostly my day is like doing some Zoom lessons. Then I did get occasional session work and stuff, which is
Yeah.
also easy to do because I've got a Pro Tools set up here, and just send me the WAV files and I'll send you back choices of guitar stuff. And then on top of that, I've been working on another record, this new blues thing where I'm taking old blues masters like from the early 1900s, and I'm rearranging, remixing them all, and I'm playing on top of them. So I have a
Oh,
whole
wow.
record of that coming out.
Uh, w- w- what kind of what kind of
What?
unique challenges has that presented that you didn't see coming?
Oh, you didn't even know, man.
Right.
I started this project like 3 years ago, and it was just sort of something on the side I was doing alongside of my solo stuff that I do. And then I have my other band, the String Revolution, which we can talk about later. I've been also working with them too, as much as we can, because we haven't seen each other in a year. But yeah, I never really call myself a blues guitarist because I'm not strictly that. But of course, when I started with Randy Rhoads back in the day, like literally the first thing that he told me about playing guitar was like you need to know basic blues stuff, and he's like everything comes from the blues, everything,
Right.
you know. And I was like, okay, and so the first thing I learned was like most people, Johnny Be Good, but all those old blues riffs and stuff. And I just started getting more interested in it actually from a student who brought up some old like Mississippi John Hurt. They wanted to learn some of that, and I was like, who's that?
Right.
And then I got involved in doing a record. It didn't come out yet. I don't know when it's coming out, but with Michelle Shocked. She's a singer songwriter.
Yeah.
She wanted to do like a tribute to female blues musicians, and she's like, "You should do Mississippi." I'm sorry, Memphis Minnie, and I'm like, "Who?" So I found myself being like, "Who?" Just totally unknowledgeable about all that music and those people. And Memphis Minnie, like, she fucking, oh, can I use that language?
Yeah. Yeah. This is an adult show.
Okay, yeah. She wrote When the Levee Breaks. Mike, did you know that?
Fuck. No, I didn't. But I mean, that does not surprise me.
She fucking wrote that. And she's
Doesn't
playing.
surprise me that a woman wouldn't get credit for some incredible feat.
Well, unfortunately, that's what happened. And
Right.
and as we know, a lot of Zeppelin songs were curtailed out of these old blues songs that they thought maybe nobody ever heard of or knew these people. And the story I heard, and I'm not sure if it's true, so any disclaimers I'm saying now, but I heard that they recorded that song. They changed it quite a bit, but they did use her lyrics and the vibe and everything, and they did not originally credit her.
The lyrics too.
I could be wrong, but this is a story I heard, and then apparently
There's
her
no
estate.
recording of it that exists. Is that what you're
Oh,
saying?
there is. That's the other thing. See, there is a recording of her and her partner Joe. I forget his name. Doing it. It's quite different than Zeppelin's, but it doesn't matter if you record somebody else's song. Even if you change it, you still. And so she was long gone dead, and she had a very small estate. I think her family or the state or the publishing company went after Zeppelin and sued them, and they lost.
Right.
So from now on, you see all credits Memphis Minnie arranged by Zeppelin, Led Zeppelin or Jimmy Page and Robert Plant. But yeah, so through Michelle, through backwards to all that, through all that, Michelle Shocked, she's like, check out Memphis Minnie. I liked this song called What's the Matter with the Mill, and I started covering. I recorded that for her, and I don't know when that record's coming out. And then I started singing and playing it in my show, and it got such a great, like response. I just kept playing it. And then I was like, I need to look into some of these. Who are these people?
Right.
And I know the whole blues community knows way more of these people than I do. But I started looking into these people a lot, like and random people, more unknown people than Mississippi John Hurt and Memphis Minnie. And I started finding these songs, and I was like, that's a riff that I play, or hey, that's a riff that I heard in that Zeppelin song, or that, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Right.
All this technique and all these riffs and all these things were just like, this is obviously the beginnings of rock and roll, like Randy Rhoads told me, but really the true beginnings. And I was like, how can I bring this to a younger audience, or just to an audience period, so that they can hear about these older artists that were maybe lesser known, and people didn't realize how similar, the music is that we're playing now, at least the vibe. And so I took these masters and I started playing over them, just playing guitar over them, then I was like, oh, this sounds good with bass, oh, maybe I should put like a backbeat on there, and then I just played around with one song, and I loved how it came out so much. I was like, I want to try a few more of these. And that was 3 years ago, and now I have 12.
You haven't released any of those yet?
No, no, it's sort of been a secret project. You're the first one I'm telling about it.
Well, I have.
It's gonna come out.
Questions.
Yes.
Coming out.
Well, we're talking to some labels, so let's see. If the label thing works out, then I'll do it that way. If it doesn't, fuck it, I'll put it out on my own. Right. So but it's also an educational project. So I could potentially tour on this. Yes, play the tracks. Who gives a shit? The point is I can play the tracks. You can hear the tracks and that track, and I can play and show, look what I did to it. And then we can have a Q&A about these songs. But your original question was, what were the problems I came up against?
Yeah, I mean, I have like a million questions, because you're dealing with original recordings, the original recordings. So they're...
You mean...
They're not yeah. So there's... if it's not part of the public domain, there's the legality and publishing.
Yeah, we're doing that right now. So I have an assistant that's my A&R person. We are working on getting the publishing rights, the master rights cleared, or I will pay, of course, a fee. That's the legality thing. That'll work out. Okay, that's going to happen. We're going to make that happen.
On the technical recording side, I immediately started thinking of, I remember when the Beatles put out Free as a Bird, right? And
right.
They took that like cassette,
and Paul played over it, yeah.
And so, I remember that was like the dawning of new technology, really.
Right.
And I was blown away.
Right?
Now, of course, but you're talking about recordings that the originals were already
terrible,
not great, yeah. Right?
Well, terrible technically, if you want to say it that way, but I don't even know if that's really a good way to put it, because there's so much charm in those original recordings. That my goal wasn't to like put out an EDM, remix version of these songs. And some of them are recorded clearer than others. I'll tell you, the biggest problem I had wasn't the pops. It was the tempos, which right. They're not playing to a click at all.
So did you drop it into a session and tempo map it? And
I did not do any of that. I learned the song, the ebbs and the flows of the song. I learned it.
Wow.
Back to back. And then the tuning. That was another huge issue. Now, they might have been in tune on their original recording years and years ago when they did it, but they were not in tune. And I'm not even talking about like it's drop D or something like that. I'm talking, It's not in tune, and it's not like A41 or something. It's like it's like A27.3 or something. It's like 427.3. I mean, I had to use my ear, and those two things were really, really difficult. The third thing was the arrangements and not to overproduce this. But then on the other hand, produce it and rearrange it enough so that, it's the vibe and the charm of the track is still there, but that you're putting a new spin on it, so that it could be somebody that would be singing it now.
How much additional instrumentation were added to these?
How much? Guitar, bass, drums, percussion, sometimes keyboard, and the guitar slides, different various, banjitar, which is sort of like a, hybrid banjo. That's it. That was the other thing. I wanted to play all the instruments. And so, sometimes it was a live drum, but the live drum was like my pillow on my chair with like hitting it with a drumstick close mic'd to get more of an organic sound.
That's incredible. I mean, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall while you were doing this shit. It sounds incredible.
I recorded some of it, like some video of me doing stuff. It was just a really intense personal experience. And there were times that I would listen on headphones that I'd be like, I feel like I'm there. And I'm no joke. I'm not trying to be all like fucking new agey and shit. I just felt like I was there in that room, and it was like 1927, and and I'm there, and I'm like either the recording tech or something, and I'm just like listening to their the way that they're singing and the way that they're playing. No one does that now. Right. I'm sorry, just no one does it like that anymore, and I don't do it at all. So I'm just purely showcasing that vibe and bringing it to life, and it's called Blues Renewed. That's the name of it.
It's not really that surprising that people don't that they don't do it like they used to or whatever, because
you can't do it like that.
There's almost a century. I mean, there is a whole century of influences that have occurred,
of course,
since then,
and that's okay. That's okay. It should be like that. But American rock and roll, or forget about that. Rock and roll comes from the Black experience in America.
Yeah.
End of story. I mean, there's no, discussing anything else. That's where it comes from, and it comes purely from post-slavery and their experience. Now, when you mix it with some of the Western European folk that was happening, then you get a little bit of this country blues thing. So, I mean, I chose a song that has yodeling in it. Okay, from a black man, yodeling. It's a blues song,
right?
But there's yodeling in it. Look, who knew? Right?
That's amazing.
Who fucking knew? So, and many of the songs, the slide sounded really good in it. There's a couple of songs where they're already doing slide, but many songs I added slide, and I was like, well, that's a no-brainer. I mean,
right.
I can see, why slide guitar became such a big thing for blues. But yeah, some of the finger-picking blues songs, like the Mississippi John Hurt ones, difficult, very difficult for me. And like, again, I'm not a blues player. I'm like a rocker chick girl, whatever. Yeah, I did finger-picking with LIndsey Buckingham and all that shit.
You're no stranger to finger-picking.
I'm not, but this is different. This is very different. And it took me a long time to learn some of these finger-picking patterns. And of course, I had to slow down the track and listen to it and learn all the intricacies and ghost notes and other things. It was very, very complicated. And like I said, it's taken me 3 years, but I'll tell you what, this last year was a blessing.
Right.
Because I finished it.
What percentage of the work got done this year versus the previous 2 years?
80%.
Wow.
Because I was so busy with touring and doing stuff with the String Revolution, and we were on the road and doing shows here and recording, and it was just my side pet project that I did every once in a while. but all of our gigs got canceled. A couple of the guys are immune compromised, so we couldn't get together.
Right.
We've been writing, on Zoom or sending tracks back and forth, which sucks, but we did manage to put out a few singles doing that. We have not yet done a streaming show until everybody's vaccinated. So we haven't played a show. I mean, I did a couple solo streaming shows, but we haven't even done a show in over a year now. So that's okay. We're keeping the project alive as much as we can, but I was not going to sit here and do nothing.
What an amazing distraction you had.
It was awesome. It was so awesome. And so, and kudos to my mixing engineer. We mixed it together, but he did so much great technical stuff. And he was Matthew Hyde. He's in London. He's worked with like Rodrigo and Gabriela and some other people. He's great. And he really got the idea of what I was trying to do. So sometimes we left, we left it in there the whole time,
Right.
and other times we cleaned it up a little bit more. I didn't want to I'm not trying to do a remastered version of these songs. It's kind of like, it's not quite, but like Moby did a song a long time ago and he had, that sample in there and he left the crack and fizzle and all that in that sample. I'm doing the same thing, but it's not dance music and it's not just a sample. It's the entire song. So yeah, I mean, there may be some songs we won't get the approval on. If we don't, I did a couple extra tracks and, we'll try to get those. And I'm just trying to get all the approval and we'll see if a label can get behind it. But it has to be the right label that understands this project.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, this is not a pop record. This isn't Lady Gaga or something, Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Just as a point of experimentation or just point of reference, did you ever mute the original track and see what the orchestration of what you did to it on its own sounded like?
Well, I had to many times just to check things, but mostly no. I mostly had that track playing and I was going to just be adding prudently. Yeah. Sometimes I added too much and I took away. I would delete the track or mute it. I'd be like, I don't need that. Let's take it. It's too much, So
it's an interesting exercise in restraint because
really interesting. I learned so much about production and arrangement doing this. So much more than I have before. And I've done many of those things before. I'm no producer in that sense, but I was definitely on this project. I was trying so hard to stay true to that track and to not play over the vocals and play only in the holes or maybe some leave a hole or, I mean, it was a lot, especially with the guitar. And the tracks I chose were mostly guitar vocal.
Right.
Yeah, they weren't like the other blues tracks that had a lot of piano or horns or stuff like that. Great songs, but I purposely didn't choose those. I wanted, tracks that were very, minimal so that I could produce them.
How did you pick this? Did you just like start listening and, spend months?
I did. I actually did go to a public domain site that has a lot of blues recordings from the, Library of Congress. Some were actual public domain, some were not, but they listed them anyway. And I was like, who is this? Like I'm doing a song called Dope Head Blues. Dude, they're writing a song. Of course they were doing dope back then, but still.
Never change.
It's amazing. There's a song called Sissy Man. It's literally considered the first like gay, gay like themed song. And he's like, if I can't get no woman, I'm gonna be with a sissy man. I swear to God, this guy was singing this. And I didn't cover that song. I might, but I mean, this shit was going on back then. I'm like, what the fuck, man? People need to know about this. Young kids need to know about it. All musicians, people, just in general. This needs to be discussed, So yeah, I have a song I did Dopehead Blues. I did another song called Suicide Blues. And a lot of them are tongue in cheek. You know, they're so clever, their lyrics, you know,
Right.
and they're very sexual most of the time, you know, which, of course. I mean, did you see Ma Rainey, the Netflix movie? You should check that out.
What is it?
It's called Ma Rainey Blues or something. It's on Netflix, and it's a little bit about her life. It's not a documentary though. It's like a film.
Oh,
Um, it's really really good.
I'll check that out. I did watch the documentary about the Native American influence on
Uh,
on blues music.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There
It
is.
was super interesting.
Yeah, there is. But it still comes from Black America.
Of course.
Yeah, nothing against the Native American. That's definitely that's another story to tell. But yeah, check out the Ma Rainey film on I think it's Netflix. It's very interesting and it's it shows how free and independent she was. But yeah, so I've been really focused on that along with string revolution stuff, my four-piece all guitar band, and other than that I haven't been doing a lot of solo stuff because this has been taking up all of my time. And we'll see if a label gets interested, we'll deal with that. If they don't, then I really want to release it this year.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping like pre-summer.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
Awesome. I gotta have so many questions right now. Okay.
sure.
I,
Sorry I took up all your time on that.
I should probably write things down as you're talking because I sometimes when I'm listening back, I forget even where I want to go with these things.
All good. Yeah.
Um, so String Revolution is acoustic, and
Mostly right now. We may add acoustic electric in at some point. Yeah.
uh, have you were you playing acoustic from the onset of picking up the guitar, and was guitar your first instrument?
So a classical guitar was nylon string was my first instrument at 6,
Wow.
and I took from this place in North Hollywood where I grew up. Fuck, what was the name? It was a small little place. I'm like blanking out. But then I moved over to what doesn't exist anymore called Valley Arts Guitar. It was kind of a big place, um, bigger than Guitar Center back then, which was a tiny little store on Sunset.
They were
Uh,
building guitars as well eventually, right?
what's that?
Valley Arts. They
Valley
built
Arts was
guitars.
mostly all guitars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I took and then I moved over to steel string acoustic, and yeah, that was about around 7 or 8. And then my brother was taking guitar at the same time, and of course, he's 4 years older, and Zeppelin is being cranked in his room, and he wants to play electric. And I don't know if it was somebody from Valley Arts or somebody else told my mom about this place called Musonia, and that this amazing guitar teacher taught electric guitar there. And my mom was really happy about it because it was even closer than Valley Arts. It was like 5 minutes from our house, literally, And so my brother started taking and it was Randy Rhoads at the time. He was very young. I don't know how old he was, 21 or something. It was really young.
He seemed like an old man though, probably
I
to
know,
you.
right? Well, and my brother started taking, and then I, being the tomboy I am, I was like, I want to play electric guitar, and so begged and begged and begged to take electric guitar lessons. And my uncle got me a deal with somebody he knew at Fender, and so my parents got me the Strat. I was lucky to get that, even though it was a good discount. And I started taking from Randy at 9.
Wow.
And then, so I did originally start on folk and classical, some you know finger picking stuff and folk music, and whatnot, strumming, and then I put that away and just full blown at 9 years old with Randy
How long did that go on?
till he got the gig with Ozzy. 15.
6 years.
Yeah,
Good Lord.
yeah.
Um,
I was really young. I was I was the only girl at the time that I knew of. I think he had a couple other girls, but they didn't end up staying.
Did you
Uh,
did you progress quickly, or were you
I
a
did.
diligent student and learned?
No, I found my calling. Like, you know, before I started playing guitar, I was like, t-ball, karate, all these things, and dancing, tap dancing, whatever. I sucked. I fucking sucked at all that shit. And I'm like, I'm not doing ballet either. That's for pussies. For me, I was like, I'm not doing that
Crazy
shit.
at 6 years old, you were like working so hard to find out what
I had two
activity.
brothers. I had two older brothers,
Right.
and I was like, they would never let me play with them. They would never let me go in their room. It was that thing, like you probably don't know that, but I was the only girl and I was the youngest. So I was like doing everything they were doing, and I was trying to find something to make me feel good about myself, literally.
Sure.
And
No.
the minute I put my hands around guitar, I think I tried to do it earlier. And the guy was like, "Your hands are too small." I think my mom told me I tried at 5, maybe even. And he's like, "You got to come back next year." So yeah, once I started and he showed me some chords, I was hooked. I mean, I remember it clearly. Remember the guitar and everything. The nylon fat neck, and I don't even know where that fucking thing is. But yeah, and then once I got to Randy, I mean, he would play and show us some things in the lessons. By the way, the lessons were like $6 for 30 minutes.
Right.
Then it progressed to like $8, over the years.
I mean, I wonder what that is in today's, like, in the scale of inflation.
Well, I don't know. I charge $70 to $100 a lesson, so well.
Right, which is standard now.
Right. But yeah, I don't know. But he would play some things, and I would just be uh, like, what? What did I just see? Like, it was so outrageous. I had never seen anybody play that. I had heard kind of crazy stuff from Van Halen's first record because my brother was always playing that. And I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, right? All those pull offs and shit, or tapping. But Randy was a pull off guy. He was more of a pull off guy than a tapping guy. So he would do some things like that. And I'd be like, I want to do that. I want to be like you. And he's like, you don't want to be like me. You want to be like you. You always want to play like yourself, but I'm going to show you these things and these techniques, and you do what you want with them.
Were you and your brother taking lessons at the same time? Were you
Yes.
both at
Separately,
simul-
separately,
Got it.
separately. Yeah. My mom would drop us both off. One goes in, takes the lesson, or depending on our schedules, she would do it, have to drop us off separately and
Back.
pick us up. But it was literally around the corner, so she was all happy about that shit.
Were you guys competitive, you and your brother, with guitar playing?
I think with that brother, I have an even older one, but he was kind of out of the house already in college and stuff. So yeah, with that one, I was a little competitive. We did try to do kind of the, brother sister band in the garage. It didn't really work out. He was more interested in girls and whatever, smoking pot.
Right.
And I was the serious one. I'm
Yeah.
like, that doesn't sound good. You have to play it again. Even back then, I was like, what a bitch, Jesus,
No, good for you. Commitment
So
to excellence.
yeah, I was like, forget you, and he eventually gave it up. In high school, he quit.
You drove him out of the garage.
Nah, he really got interested in other things and he
Right.
wasn't serious, and I got really good for that age and that time. And I was doing it in school with bands and guys, and I was always the only girl, and then I kept doing it through junior high, and then, you know, high school. I tried to join the jazz band, but I don't know how to read music anymore, so that never worked out. So I
Right.
was always in like rock bands, neighborhood bands, always the girl. And then tried in high school, and I mean, for the most part, it was pretty good, unless the guys wanted to date me or something, and I wasn't really interested in that, just because I just wanted to play. Like
Right.
I wanted to be in a band. Like I was so focused on being a guitar player and being in a band and writing songs. And then I saw an ad for all female band, and I'm like, that could work. This
Right.
could work because there won't be that thing, you know. I mean, there could have been that thing, but
Guys are the fucking worst, really.
what's that?
Guys are the fucking worst.
No, I idolized all the guy musicians. I didn't have that many. The only women musicians I totally idolized back then was Ann and Nancy Wilson. They were the only ones that were playing hardcore, rock, what I call, hard rock, and they were out there doing it, and they were they
Oh,
were beautiful, and they
shit.
were amazing, crushing it, and but other than that, I mean, I would go in my brother's room and look at Jimmy Page posters and Clapton and ZZ Top, and everybody's sweating and their shirts are off. And I can't play with my shirt off. But, I wanted to emulate them. I mean, they were all my idols. That's so I had to play with guys, and I was okay about that. It just became more of a problem as I got older.
Right.
Yeah. So then, so the ad for Precious Metal came out, and I was like, what's that? I mean, I knew Go-Go's and Bangles, and I liked their music, but I wanted to play rock music, like harder edged rock music.
So what age are you at this point when you see
16.
you're 16? You've
Six.
been like a year away from your studies with Randy.
Well, yeah. So
I feel like we're just breezing over that, but I imagine you've talked
well,
about it a lot.
yeah, no, there's a lot. I mean, I don't want to take up all your time, but yeah, I mean, my lessons with Randy were intense for the 30 minutes that we did it. Often I'm asked, what did you guys do? And really what it came down to was he would show me a progression. I would learn the progression, and then he would solo over it. And so he's teaching me rhythm and also in turn songwriting, right? A little bit of songwriting because the progressions always had some kind of riff, like and that I still remember that because that was when he taught me, and then I later heard that on a record with Ozzy, and it was like, that's that progression he taught. It was similar. It was like very similar to the progression he taught me one time in a lesson, and he would solo. Then as we, years went by, we would switch, right? He would do a progression and he would say, all right, try this scale, this pentatonic or this Dorian scale. And then we would stop, he would show me some licks, some technique. And it was like that. And it was 30 minutes. And then I often taped them on cassettes, my little Radio Shack cassette player. And where are the cassettes? Nowhere to be found, Mike. Nowhere to be found.
Really?
Where are they? I don't know. My mom threw them out. I don't know. But you can go on to YouTube now and you can listen to other students'
I've
tapes.
seen some of those. Yeah.
Yeah. And we all did this. You can hear Randy talking. In fact, you can hear him talking to a student about the blues.
Yeah.
Same thing that he said to me. But I wish I had those tapes. I mean, I just wish, because I would bring in also jams and stuff from my little neighborhood bands and be like, can you help me make this into a song? Like,
And would you do it?
yeah, it would help a little bit. And sometimes I would bring a band member, into the lesson, or sometimes a neighborhood friend. Like I'd be like, you got to check out my guitar teacher, man. This guy's insane. And they would be like, or my cousins, right? My cousins always
He was just the guitar teacher guy at this point. He wasn't.
He was big in Quiet Riot, as we all know. He was in Quiet Riot. So I was going to some of those shows, and I had to go with my parents. So because
But Quiet Riot was a local band at this point.
Very big. They were playing at a club that doesn't exist anymore, the Starwood, which was really just as famous as Whiskey A Go Go. I mean, Zeppelin would play there. Van Halen got signed, I think, out of there. I mean, so Quiet Riot was really big, and I did go to some of their shows. I also went to the Palomino, which is also a very famous club out here. I saw them there, but I went always with my mom and dad, sometimes my brother. Sometimes I just went with my parents. They had to, what's it called? Chaperone me.
Right.
But I do have a funny story. I've told it before, but maybe your listeners haven't heard it. I went to a lesson the night of a show, and he was sick. He had a cold. And my dad he's unfortunately he's in a home with Alzheimer's, but he was a dentist his whole life, and he was really into like vitamins and natural health and stuff like that. He was really into vitamin C before it got popular. And then he found vitamin C that was in powder form that was apparently stronger. So my mom was like, well, we're coming to the show tonight, so why don't we bring you some of this special vitamin C that my husband has? And Randy was like, okay, yeah, sure. He had a cold and everything. So we show up to the Starwood. He comes out from behind the stage before the show, and my mom hands him a baggie of white powder over all these tables, and everybody's looking at her, and I'm like, what's the problem? And they're like, what's that? What? And I'm like, what's going on? Why is everybody looking at my mom?
That's great.
And I do remember that. I remember, I can see it now in my head. It's all dark in the Starwood, all these tables, all these adults, and yeah, he took the bag, and you're supposed to mix it like in orange juice and drink it,
Right.
to help your cold.
But he cut it up and snorted it on the table, right?
Right.
The back of the toilet seat.
Yeah, not at all. Randy wasn't into, as far as I know, was not into any drugs or drinking. I mean, the thing that he did the most, at least that I saw in the lessons, I don't know what happened after shows, but in lessons, he was into his Diet Coke and his smoking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, this guy is so damn skinny. Why does he want Diet Coke? Like what is it about that? But a huge one, like a huge Diet Coke, and just chain smoking. He was a dedicated teacher. I mean, he was there, whatever, probably from noon on to, I mean, sometimes my lessons were like 7:30 at night. I think he stopped at 8, so a good chunk of 8 hours of teaching. So dedicated that between tours, before he died, he came back to teach us one more time. And I saw him for the last time that time.
Oh,
and
that's
he
insane.
was a huge star.
Right.
Yeah. And I was like, Randy's coming back. I've been continuing to take.
And $10 that by that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was taking from a sub named Steve Sonnersberg. There was another one, George Lynch, I think, took over for a while, but I never took from him. I might have stopped in between. So I don't even remember George Lynch teaching there.
I remember reading the story that he replaced him there.
Well, then I must have left after Randy left. I might have quit for a while and then decided to go back, and it was a different sub. This guy Steve Sonnersberg, also really good guitarist. He's more doing classical more now. But yeah, Randy came back, and one more time, and he saw us all, and yeah, he was so. He was so great. And he came out to my mom. He's like, she's going to be better than me, when she's my age. And I'm like, I've passed his age, and I'm, of course, still not near as good as him.
Like, you're so old, I'm never going to be you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but he was just, listen, the lessons with him and playing guitar, I was so lucky. I tell my younger kids this, find what you like. If it isn't guitar, that's okay. Try something else. But if it is guitar, lean on it, make it your best friend. And I was so lucky to have him as a teacher and a male, role model. He could give a shit that I was a girl and that I was young. He treated me like everybody else. He wanted me to practice. He wanted excellence, as you put it. And he wanted me to be myself. And that's it. He'll show me all his fancy things and his technique, but then ultimately make up your own thing, make up your own style. So that's what I did.
His teaching style definitely informed the way you teach.
100%.
Yeah.
It's 100% the way he taught. I'm not a structured teacher. I didn't go to Berkeley. I don't know how to read music anymore. I teach the scales, positions, and strums. And now my skills have developed different. I do a lot of percussive stuff on acoustic now. I've changed. My style has changed over the years, so I teach more things than perhaps he was teaching me,
Right.
because I went a lot of different ways with my career in guitar playing.
When
So
did that aspect, the sort of like, you know, uh
Ani DeFranco thing happen. Like,
I was gonna say Michael Hedgesy sort of like
right.
yeah.
That was much later. Way after like Precious Metal, way after LIndsey Buckingham gig and all that shit. And it really, I had listened to Michael Jackson and stuff, but I was really influenced by Ani DeFranco because I went and saw her and I was like, who the fuck is this? And she was selling CDs on the side of the stage, and I was like,
Yeah.
who does that? No one does that. I was like, that's weird. And then we were all like, well, maybe that isn't weird because she's keeping all the cash. And I saw her manager just like, and I was like, fuck. And then I started reading about her and realizing she's booking her own gigs. She doesn't need an agent. I mean, you remember, I come from the 80s,
He's banned.
two-piece band, exactly, or no drummer. But I come from that structured 80s thing. We got signed twice. We had a manager. We had an agency. I didn't know anything about booking gigs. What? Booking your own gigs? What the fuck are you talking about?
I mean, it's presented to you, at least back then, it was presented to you as if those things were dark arts.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
you couldn't possibly understand how to book a show.
Well, I didn't. I mean, at that time, I didn't. But then this woman comes around, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Meanwhile, I find out that Michelle Schacht had been doing some of that before her. And I wasn't that aware of Michelle before. But yeah, sorry, let me turn this off. So that stuff happened way later when I started doing my own solo thing, which was actually mentored a little bit by Lindsey. He pushed me to do my own solo thing because I wasn't singing like a lead singer. I'm still not a lead singer, I have trouble with my voice constantly. I had vocal surgery and whatnot, but he's like, just do it, just write some songs, find your voice. And then I was like, well, now what? And then I saw this woman going out, booking her own shows, playing little places, selling her shit on the side. I mean, I was like, well, I can do that. And this is, of course, at the dawning of the internet.
Right.
So I started messing around with more percussive things. I loved what she did because I felt like it was creating more of a band atmosphere. I didn't have money to take a band out, and I was like, I got to make my show interesting enough. And so I wanted to lean more on my guitar playing than my singer because I'm not really a singer in that sense. People come to see me, they want to see my guitar playing and they want to hear my songs, that's fine. So I was like, I'm gonna lean more on, and I'm gonna come up with some interesting things. And I had to do it on acoustic. Now you can do lots of things. You can have loops and other stuff,
Right.
but I had to do it on acoustic. So there was a bit of a change, but I had to play acoustic in Lindsey's band too. So I had come back to the acoustic. Prior to that, it was all electric. Because out of Precious Metal, it was all electric, and I'm playing my Jackson. My Strat had been stolen. I didn't have a telly. It was Jacksons and the fucking Floyd Rose, and I was doing all that. But when I got in Lindsey's band, no, I had to get a telly. I had to get the other guitars. I had to get an acoustic guitar. I mean, it was a whole different kind of scene.
What a crazy transition, first of all.
Yeah, very crazy.
How much time passed in between, like
1 year?
1 year to cleanse your palate of dive bombs and shred solos?
Well, it's 1990. So Precious Metal got dropped because grunge came.
Right.
So we lost our deal with Chameleon Capital. We were done after 6 years. I tried to start a little band with the singer, like a pop band, totally different, and then I got a call to audition for him. And he was the first time he was putting this big band together of all these guitar players. And I was like, what? What is this? And I knew who he was, and I knew he was a great guitar player. But I'm like, okay, I'll do the audition. I'll check it out. And the audition consisted of this: nearly 5 to 6 hours of sitting around, jamming. That was the audition.
Just jamming.
Jamming, then putting the guitar down, talking to him.
Wow.
What do you, so what band were you in before? And then he would say weird things like, is this how you dress all the time? Because I was like in leggings and like cowboy boots. I was still coming out of I was still like, you know, teetering the 80s look,
Huh.
not trying to find, I wasn't doing the flannel thing yet, because I wasn't a grunger. So
Right.
he's trying to get like a vibe of me. Like,
He's like, do you have anything that doesn't have suede tassels?
right, right. No, I mean, he was very cool. He was very respectful, but it
Yep.
was literally that. It was like sitting around, he'd teach me a part. I would play it. I could pick it up pretty fast. I had some skills. He would show me a singing part, and I had been singing backgrounds, so I knew how to do that. I was pretty good with that. I'd done a lot of background singing and arranged background singing for Precious Metal. And then there'd be a lot of pot smoking going on. There were other band members that he had already chosen. It was all guys in there and me. And he specifically wanted two women because he wanted two women voices. But then he was like, if I'm going to have them sing, I might as well have them play because he has multitude of guitar, tracks on his solo records. If you know anything about Lindsey Buckingham solo stuff. So that's why he wanted two women in the band. And I just remember thinking, I'm looking at the clock and it's my birthday. Well, it's my birthday, I think was the next day, but I was having this huge party at my apartment, and I'm like, I gotta get home and get the apartment ready for get the apartment ready for the party. I'm like, what the and he's just like sitting around. So yeah, we're thinking of going out on and I'm like, oh my God, when is this going to be over? Because I had done other auditions where you go in and you play, you play one song and you leave.
In the hall.
Yeah, and it's like, we'll call you. But this was like a whole like life story thing going on. So finally I got out of there and I went home and I was like, what the fuck was that? Like, what did I don't even know if I did well. Like, I don't even know. Like, I played what he showed me. I sang what he showed me. I was myself. And then I was like, I don't know if I got that gig or not. And I didn't hear anything for 2 weeks. And I was like, I guess
No
I
way
didn't.
you couldn't read the vibe because
No, because
much
that was
smoke rolling.
it was the strangest audition I'd ever been to. And it was in this big rehearsal. It wasn't SIR. It was some other place that doesn't exist anymore. Um, then 2 weeks later, I got a call from the lady who originally got me the audition and said, Lindsey loves you. You're in the band. You got the gig. And in 2 weeks, you're on Leno. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
What the fuck? What? I don't even know any of his songs. I mean,
Right.
you know. So, but we could go on and on with Lindsey's thing because there's a lot to talk about that. But just to answer your question, it was literally 1 year of a transition from going to that kind of hard rock, glam rock, 80s
Yeah.
Sunset Strip music to a more, I almost said classy, and that's not very nice, because that music was classy too, just in a different way. A more structured, more, kind of music that was very ranged, and different style. Of course, not hard rock, but not, it wasn't pussy music. It was, very complicated, and it required different technique and different guitars, different look, everything. I mean,
The thing that is the most curious to me and that I'm most interested in hearing about is how you prepared yourself to transition into playing more roots style music. Now, you said when you were young and you were learning,
yeah,
you were focused on like sort of, you know, we simplify it by saying blues music, but really when we're learning pentatonic
right.
scales, we're not really learning blues licks. I mean,
Well, I learned some. I learned some blues licks from Randy for sure. I did.
he fucking taught you how to play Johnny Be Good.
Yeah, that was my first song I learned with him.
you learned how to play Johnny Be Good from Randy Rhoads.
I absolutely did.
That's fucking.
And you know, there's a tutorial I put on. There's a video out there where I talk about uh, a lick that is, you know, Chuck Berry meets Johnny Be Good, and it's this one. You hear it in Crazy Train. It's, you know, that lick,
Yeah,
but you know, if you do it up here. Sorry, I don't have it plugged in. But
I
so
can.
what
Yeah,
did Randy do? He did, you know, we all know that riff.
yeah,
But then he added the blues note. Instead of going like Page would go, Randy did this.
is that a flat five there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the blue note, and then he just walked it down. Right? I'm playing sloppy, but yeah, you know.
right.
So yes, that's what I learned. I learned shit like that from him, and other stuff.
The everything that you were doing leading up to the Lindsey gig was very like there wasn't a lot. There's not a ton of subtlety to 80s
No.
glam music.
No,
Like
no, we were trying to compete with Poison and Faster Pussycat and Warrant and fucking
you've
Guns N'
got a
Roses.
modded Marshall or you're
Oh
using.
yeah, I had two modded Marshalls. You know,
Yeah,
Jim Demeter modded Marshalls in a case. You know, and
of
I
course.
had this whole special setup and a rack mount and fucking crazy shit. You know, custom Jacksons.
Right. So, do you still have any of those things?
I have my two custom Jacksons. I sold off the modded Marshalls to buy another Taylor because I like this particular model. They don't make it anymore. Now I have three of them, and I continue to buy them up.
It's good to have a backup of the
Yeah,
backup.
now I have two backups to the original. Um,
So what? So
that's
I
all I
guess
have.
the question about that stuff, after taking the Jackson side step,
Yeah.
is how did you shift your mindset? Because the even the physical approach, the attack, like the
Right.
attack of playing, is so much different. And how
Well,
you get your
you
head
know,
in that?
I mean, I up until then, you know, I was used to, you know, a producer suggesting things to me, or you know, sometimes I would come up with stuff too. But I was really good at direction. Now you tell me what to play, I'll play it. You know, because I was so focused, all of us in precious metal, to prove that we were all playing on our records. Okay, because that was such a thing that came up for us all the time, even in radio interviews. Are your boyfriend's playing for you? No, dude, we're fucking playing all the parts, you know. So I was so focused on that that I got really good with direction, and you know, I just simply I hadn't really had a long term hired gun gig before that. I had one experience of it on the road with some other band, this other band, but I just was like, okay, I know I'm going to get direction. I cannot show up there with my Sparkle Jackson. I brought out my Frankenstein Strat. Actually, it was a lead two. Remember that?
Oh
Remember
yeah,
that? And I had it all like, you know, I did have a Floyd on it, but I had it all put together. I like picked out my own neck and all this shit. And I brought that to the first rehearsal. It was blue, and I saw him looking at it.
did he
You
give you
know?
shit about the Floyd?
Well, he eventually gave me a guitar to play,
Yeah,
you know, and I eventually bought one. But he's like, you know, he's like, okay, this sounds good on some of the songs we're going to do, but I'd like you to try this Strat. And I was like, okay. It was like some fucking, you know, 1972 amazing tobacco Strat. You know, I was like, sure, no problem, you know. And the same with the amp thing. They were provided for us. So I didn't use my own amp. I think I was using a Vox, perhaps.
that,
But I did use some of my own guitars along with some of his. And we all simply followed his direction. He purposely searched for people who were not known session players. He did not want that. And he
right.
didn't want seasoned touring people either. Although I was by then kind of seasoned because all I did with Precious Metal was go on the road for fucking 6 years. So,
Did
you know,
were you doing anything? Um, were you playing any slide then? And
no,
no.
very little,
So really,
very little.
the thing that came upon that time was like finger picking, a lot of finger picking.
Some finger picking and some just specific lines. So, it was for a record. The main tour that we did was for his record called Out of the Cradle. And if somebody out there goes and picks it up, listen to it in headphones because you can hear all this shit going on. Very specific parts. And then you might play the part, it might be doubled by somebody else. So the two of you are playing it on two different kinds of guitars, and then you don't play it, you play that once and then you don't play anything until the chorus comes up, and then you play it again during the chorus and then nothing.
Right.
You're just you're just dancing a little bit,
I
it
just
was like
remembered
that.
a hilarious thing that you came up on another one of my podcast episodes.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
not by name, but you as a person character in a story, because Taylor
Yes.
was on the podcast and he was talking about doing the show, and I was like, wow, I mean,
Bob Taylor.
no, Taylor,
Oh,
Taylor
Taylor.
does the comedy, Fleetwood Mac comedy show,
Oh, I don't know him.
the musical.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Taylor. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I gave him a guitar lesson in Lindsey Buckingham shit. Yeah.
I was like, what are you gonna do when Lindsey shows up? And he's like,
Right.
I don't know. But he said that you showed up one night,
I
and,
did.
and that he spoke to you afterwards, and he was like, oh,
I actually pulled him aside. I said, "This is awesome. You were great and I love this. But for free." And I'm like, "Taylor, for free. Come to me. I'll give you some more tips on a little bit more closer to how Lindsay's playing it."
yeah, I mean, that's exactly how he told it. And
Yep.
he said, he came over, you were super cool, and he worked on it really hard, and then he
I came back and saw him and he was better. Yeah.
well, he said he gets in the show and he has a couple sodas, and then he's just all bets are off. He's like, I just probably not.
No, he was better when I came back the second. I've seen the show two or three times now.
Yeah,
It's such a great show, Mike.
everybody
If
like,
you're ever out here and if the pandemic's over and it's back on, they do such a fantastic job, and he especially is amazing. But no, he was better, and I don't know. Lindsay might show. You never know with him. You never know. I still talk to him every once in a while. I ran into him last year before the pandemic at a rehearsal place,
yeah,
and he I always make sure, when we chit chat and talk about his family and whatnot, my family, because he knows my parents a little, and but I always tell him, I just want you to know that you if it wasn't for you, being so hard on me, and I'll get into that story because he was very hard on me, and he was hard on a lot of us in the band. And I said, I don't think I would be where I'm at now, which is, I mean, I'm not a famous rock star or anything, but I wouldn't be, doing everything I'm doing now and the way that I do it and the way I approach things. And I just want to thank you, for being like that, for requiring excellence. There's that word again. And he said, he looked right in my eyes and he said, "That's what it's about, isn't it?" That's what he said. And I was like, I just have to be grateful for these mentors in my life. And again, I am. Every day I think I'm just grateful for it. And Nancy Wilson became a little bit of a mentor too. Towards the last record of Precious Metal, we ended up writing songs with Ann and Nancy. And I got to meet my idols. I got to stay over there, sleep over, dance and drink and jam, and we wrote two songs with them, and one of them made it to our record. And I ended up later opening for Ann and Nancy Wilson, doing an acoustic opening spot out here. And a lot of my dreams came true, and I tell my students this all the time. Look, Times are different now. You might not make millions and millions of dollars. You might not become a household name, but if you work hard enough and you're dedicated and you constantly work on yourself and edit yourself and re-edit yourself, your dreams can come true. They may not be exactly how you thought they would, but parts of it will come true. Like I've played in arenas. I've met my idols. I've recorded, I've been signed, I've had little bits of things and stuff, and so I'm always really, really grateful for that. Because if I was only into this career for being a rock star and making millions of dollars, I would have quit a long time ago.
How many? I mean, making money doesn't equally doesn't equate to happiness.
Well, yeah, but when you're a kid growing up and you see all this stuff and these photos and, cameras flashing, you have these, illusions of grandeur. I
It's
mean,
hard.
I dropped out of college when we got signed.
Right.
I just dropped out of UCLA. I was like, fuck this,
What were you studying?
Theater arts, of all things. I had done a little acting before Precious Metal.
Yeah.
I wasn't into it because I felt it was very phony, Hollywood phony bullshit.
It's
Yeah, but yeah, music's different. And I was like, no, this is not going to work for me. And then once I got into Precious Metal, I was like, this is what I want to do. But it was around the same time, because I graduated. Our first gig with Precious Metal was lunchtime, noontime on the quad. That was our first gig.
right.
And then I graduated the next year and we got signed and I was in UCLA at the time and I was like, I can't do both. I can't do it. And then my agent was like, which one is it going to be? You going to do music or you going to do acting? Of course, they would never tell you to do that now. They want you to do both.
Right.
But back then, I'm like, if you're telling me that I have to choose, there's no question. I'm going to be, I'm going to stay in my band and I'm going to play guitar. So, but that's how I got into UCLA. I had good grades and I had an acting background and I got into theater arts with a minor in English. And I didn't last long, yeah. But that's okay. My parents were supportive. I was lucky. I'm the only person in the family to not graduate college.
Wow.
It's okay. They're pretty cool. I think they couldn't control me at that point. They're like, she's off in her own world. Just let her do her thing. And that's what I'm doing.
Right.
That's what I've been doing ever since.
I think the thing that you don't realize when you're young is that, what success is.
Of course you don't. You don't think that internally. You're not thinking about that. It's very superficial.
Right. Because success is being able to do what you want to do. There are a lot of things in life that
People can't do. They're not able to do it. Yeah.
that you just simply can't do because of
No.
fuck,
No. Yeah. Once I started to, really like make a living to be able to pay for, rent and food and, a car and all that, I was like, you know what? I'm successful.
that's it, man.
I'm like, I'm successful. I don't care if I have a guitar in my hands. If I'm teaching, pardon me, I'm teaching, I'm doing a session, I'm on the road, whatever. If I have the guitar in my hand and I'm getting paid for it, I'm successful. And I tell people that all the time, especially my students who want to get into this, professionally. And I try to be the mentor that people were to me. And I had several really amazing ones. Amazing ones.
And it's not easy.
No, it's not easy. No, and it's not easy on relationships. I'm married, but um, I'm married to a woman. It's still the same shit. It's still a marriage.
Yeah.
I have a studio here across the street from our main residence, which is another apartment, but that works out great. I have a bed here in case I want to sleep over here alone.
Right.
And, she works at home, so do I. So we kept my little apartment here.
This year you've probably gotten acquainted with the couch. It's hard to be
This is my man cave, So yeah, I've been spending a lot of time here. But look, I mean, relationships that I had suffered until this one,
Right.
and this is going on now 12 years. But I was in a previous one for 12 years, and it's suffered. And other people I dated, there was always problem, and I think musicians sacrifice a lot. Relationships with romantic ones, friendships, relationships with your family. Going on the road, you miss a lot of things. You miss your nieces and nephews, and anniversaries and things. And it's always like, oh, your career comes first. Your career comes first. Well, I mean, yeah. I kind of would say to people, if you want to be in a relationship with me, realize that you're going to have another mistress because the other mistress is music. And it's just, I don't know any other artist who's dedicated that doesn't have the same problem. So that's just the way it is. And yes, I've been lonely before. I'm like, I'm giving up on this relationship shit. I'm not going to be with anybody. And then boom, that's when you meet somebody, right? But yeah, there are sacrifices, late nights, a lot of rejection, a lot of no's, or you're not good enough, or you're too fat, you're too skinny, your hair's the wrong color. I mean, a lot of inappropriate things that have happened to me, as well.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean that's not why I'm married to a woman. Just let's clarify that. Uh,
I,
um,
I would never, I would not assume.
right? No, I mean I don't know any other woman in rock and roll that hasn't had various inappropriate things that
Any
have
other
happened.
woman on earth in
Well,
any,
that too. Yeah, of course. That's stupid for me to say.
but
Any other?
rock and roll is notoriously
Well, it's just, like when yeah, like one guy, I was in this private plane with Keith Olsen, a famous producer, and the band was, in the back, everybody's partying, and me being the fucking boring, guitar player that's only interested in playing, you know. I'm like, I want to go to the front cockpit, and the pilot's just like, isn't this amazing? And I was like, oh, this is a rock star dream, we're flying to Santa Barbara for dinner, you know? And I'm like, on a private plane. Shit. He's like, this is cool, isn't it? Here's autopilot. And then he puts his arm around me. And then he starts trying to kiss me. And he's like grabbing me. And I'm like, get the fuck off me. I was older, okay? So that was better, but not that old. I was like 19 or something.
yeah.
I'm like, get off of me. And he's like, why? All you rock and roll women, you all want the same thing. And I'm like, no, I don't. First of all, you're barking up the wrong tree. And second of all, I don't want this and from you, nor does every rock and roll woman. So what the fuck are you talking about? And I immediately left the cockpit and went back where the party was happening. And I didn't tell anybody. And I should have. And I told the girls later, much later, and then I ended up running into Keith Olsen, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but I ran into him at a NAMM show, and I'm like, dude, do you remember that time you took my band, in your private plane? It was so cool. We went, flew to Santa Barbara for dinner, and he's like, oh yeah, I remember. And I told him what happened with the pilot. He's like, why didn't you tell me? And I'm like, well, you guys were all partying, and I didn't want to be like that bummer chick. Oh, there's that bummer chick, And he's like, you should have told me because I would have fired him on the spot. And I was like, this is so common.
Yeah.
This is the sort of thing that's so common with women in any industry, as you put it. But yes, okay, sacrifices. Yeah, there's a lot. And even if you're a male in being a musician, there's a lot of sacrifices. But we do it because we love it. I have committed myself to this. I feel like this is my religion. I will do it until I fucking drop dead. I swear to God. If I have to do it in a wheelchair, I will do it. I will play guitar as long as I can.
Well, that is a
There you go.
I mean, it's clear and obvious. It's age 5, you were determined to do it, and
It built my self-esteem. It gave me confidence as a person and as a woman. It built up 100% my self-esteem, and it still has. I'm just as insecure as everybody else. But and there are times I'm insecure with the guitar in my hands. Of course, if I make a mistake or shit, I can't fucking play that or whatever, you know. I've made tons of mistakes and beat myself up over it. But overall, it's my security blanket. Music, playing guitar, playing with people, playing in front of an audience. I'm also a performer. I love to perform. I think that's from my acting background, you know. Um, I love to be an entertainer. I love all of that stuff. And, you know, at the same time, I am trying to have a normal life. And, yeah, you know, I have a good relationship with my parents. My dad is he's got Alzheimer's, but my mom is still with us. And, you know, my brothers are still around. My middle brother became my biggest fan and, you know, came to all my shows. And he's always like, I'm so proud of you. And I should have stuck playing, just should have stuck with lessons with Randy, you know. But guess what? He became a dentist like my dad.
Is that right?
So,
Is he
and I'm sorry, go ahead. He's in LA. Yeah.
you go get your teeth cleaned from him? That's a
Yeah, he's now consulting more. But his son now is also a dentist. Can you fucking believe it? I mean, couldn't we have like a doctor or a lawyer or something? I mean, you
yeah.
know,
What's up?
I don't know. But yeah, so I've tried to have a regular life and do this crazy business and stay dedicated and pass on what I can and just overall try to be a good person and whatever, you know.
I mean,
There's so much more that I could talk about. So much
there's
more.
always. I mean,
Mike.
anyone who has a life in music or any creative arts, there's always a lot to unpack, right? Because
There's a lot.
uh, it's a feast or famine life.
Well, if some
Certainly.
people, sometimes people ask me, you know, that question, if there was anything you could change, would you do anything different? You know, that sort of question. And my answer is no.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Yeah. You know,
Fuck that.
no, I'm happy. Maybe if I started studying singing earlier, that's my nemesis. You know, I sang incorrectly for so long. I created a cyst. I had to have vocal cord surgery, and
Right.
now I can't. It's hard for me to hold pitches and the control. I'm having to relearn to sing again. Um, but other than that, no, really, I'm pleased with what I've done. I'm grateful for the people that I've had in my life, and you know, I want to keep creating. You know, coming up with that blues thing just came to me. You know, after being introduced to some of that music, the String Revolution band came about on me just taking a break from my solo thing and not singing as much. And also, I was so inspired by having multitude of guitars, you
Yeah.
know, from Lindsey's band and seeing how intricate and how cool the arrangements could be. I thought, you know, I want to put something like that together, and I'd like to make it more instrumental. We do have some singing on some songs, but um, and you know that came together really fast too. I
How
mean, I
did you know those folks
Well,
before?
that's a funny story too, Mike. You
Let's
know,
have it.
I went the same route that Lindsey did. I mean, I was like, I want to find people I don't know because I know a lot of great guitar players for sure out here, amazing ones. But I really wanted to find people I didn't know, I never met or anything. And I put a very specific, like it was so specific, ad in Craigslist.
Really?
I did, and not one girl answered it.
Right.
But it was like, you know, I'm forming a unique band where we're going to use our guitars in unusual ways, use them as percussive instruments, use them as bass line things. I want to create a band sound using four guitars only. You know, and so literally I got a few submissions of the that shit. I wasn't looking for that. They were great, but that's not what I was looking for.
Did you say in your ad that you're a woman?
No,
No.
purposely.
Right.
Yeah. Nope. Only after, if somebody contacted me, then they would know by my name and I would show them my website and my experience and where I was coming from and my credits.
Right.
because I was like, I'm not fucking around here, It's, so some people were not prepared for that yet. Some people were just the wrong style, and then a few of the guys that answered were like, "This guy is fucking great. I love this. He's unique. He's and you didn't have to only play acoustic either. I just wanted to see what was your approach to guitar. Do you have any instrumental pieces, or if you don't, can you play something, make a video for me?" And so I found the two guys, and then the one guy had a friend who was really like did a lot of classical and jazz, and I was like, that could be cool, because I kind of wanted everybody to have come from different backgrounds, and that's how it was born. We all met, and now they're like, I'm sure I'm their annoying sister they never wanted. So, and they're like three more brothers I never wanted either, but they're awesome guys. And, we've been together for a long time. We're really working hard. We lost a year though. We lost a year, and the end of 2019 was really good for us. We were invited to play at the Grammy Museum. That's a really tough gig to get,
Yeah.
and that really helped us a lot. And we were starting to get festival bookings, and um, I spoke to Rodrigo y Gabriela, and we were discussing maybe we could open for them. And, there was a lot of little good things that maybe could be happening. And then boom, fucking pandemic, and we're trying, but we're so much of a vibe thing. Like we come here and we work together and we write together, and it's been really hard, So we finished a few songs that we had started before the pandemic, and we did it by recording individually, and then having Matt Hyde, who I mentioned earlier, mix it. And so we released a few singles and did some like those 4 square videos, that you
Yeah.
do at home. We did those. And we're working on another cover. And we're just releasing singles right now. And then we're discussing a possible streaming show. We'll see, but only when everybody's feeling healthy. And not a lot of places are booking. We have one booking for August, which could change if they're not going to allow any gatherings. But other than that, we've been reaching out, and people are like, we're not committing to any bookings right now. And I'm like, what the fuck? We can't even what about 2022? But nobody wants to do that yet because they want to see where 2021 is going to end up at. So it's been really complicated, and not complicated. That's not the word. It's been really
Frustrating.
That's a better word. Yeah. Frustrating. That's been, yeah. Yeah. It's been really frustrating. But I think the boys are hanging on. We're concentrating on getting some more YouTube views and getting our YouTubes out there just so people know who we are. And we're doing what we can. And they have other projects too, so they're busy with some other things too. And hopefully this will all be over and we can finally get together and get our lives back. But I am grateful for having completed this blues project, which, by the way, is volume 1. I plan
Excellent.
on doing volume 2.
Did you say earlier that you did 2 extra songs?
Yeah, so I did
Or-
12 songs. The last 2 are not completed yet, but I did those 2 in case a couple songs don't get approved for, if we can't get the license. If we can't get the master license, then we'll have to replace them. And my friend, my assistant, who's helping me trying to, it's like a fucking private eye detective thing, trying to find where these masters came from and who owns the publishing now, and it's complicated,
Yeah. And it's
I can't release anything without approval.
right. Well, I mean, I wish you the best of luck with that, because that is a whole, like, that would be supremely frustrating, especially if the
Well, we've gotten some approvals. So the worst case scenario is I release a fucking EP or something. I mean,
right.
5 songs. It's still the concept. But it's interesting. I just woke up to an article about Dan Auerbach. He just did a record with Tony Joe White's demos. And I was like, fuck, someone took my idea. But it's not really the same thing. It's a little bit different. These are more modernized demos But yeah, he did do that. He took those original demos and he recorded a live band around
Fuck,
those.
fucker.
It's different though. I played all the instruments on this, and this is a very niche specific genre. And these are very old recordings.
Have you hit like Fat Possum up?
We're looking into all those.
Yeah.
We're, Smithsonian, for example, they have a couple of labels, and the reason I like them is because there's an educational aspect to this.
I mean, all those Smithsonian, American, Smithsonian,
Yeah, folkways
all
and
that is so incredible.
yeah, there's one called Arhuli or something, Arhuli Records, Cajun and Zydeco Blues. We'll see. We're just slowly. She's probably going to be mad at me that I talked about it so much, but it's okay. It's fine. I want to get the word out about it because it's like pre-publicizing it. Whether I get it on a label or not, I am putting it out.
Great.
So
I have a question. You're wearing a Kiss shirt.
I am.
And were you a Kiss fan?
No,
I'm 50.
I
And
was not a Kiss fan.
you were not as a
I
kid?
I liked I Want to Rock and Roll All Night, but no. Isn't that funny?
It is kind of, I mean, it is kind of funny. I mean, because they had a strong impact on a very specific age group. And
They did. That was our age group. Well, I
yeah,
don't know. I'm probably older than you. I'm 54. I don't know how old
you're
you
not,
are.
you're 4 years older than me. That's
Okay.
not,
Well, not much. No, my brother listened to a few Kiss albums. I was really, influenced by what Steve was listening to, my brother. But I would look at their albums and their poster. I'd be like, this is like cartoon band. It's terrible that I said that, but I,
right.
I felt like the makeup. Yeah, I mean, the theatrics, the makeup and everything, it's the same like Alice Cooper, not so much into him either, or even Ozzy for that matter, except for, it was Randy, it was like anything Randy, But yeah, I thought, there were a few songs I liked from Kiss, but no, I was more into this Zeppelin, Heart, ZZ Top, uh, Black Sabbath, prior, to Ozzy solo, Deep Purple,
Oh, yeah.
Foghat. I mean, these bands that were like there were arrangements, there was guitar, there was a guitar solo,
Yeah.
I was into that, and the Zeppelin is and the Beatles. On the side there was the Beatles going on. I was obsessed with the Beatles. Would listen in my headphones every Beatles record I could. My mom bought the original Sgt. Pepper's. That was my favorite record of all time. It still is. So yeah, Bowie, I was into him too. It was strange. Like I had this hard rock thing going on, but I also like the songwriting in Beatles. Like the songs were so good. I almost didn't care about what was going on with the guitar. The songs and the arrangement, the production was so unique, different to what I was listening to with those other bands. And then there was the occasional Joni Mitchell, James Taylor, a little bit of that, the folky stuff, and Fleetwood Mac.
Was there, I don't know why this has only just occurred to me, but you're a guitar player around LA, making a name for yourself. It's 19 whatever, whenever it is. Was it ever brought up that you would audition to play for Ozzy?
No, I
No.
was too young. No. Oh, you mean later after Randy died?
Right.
No, I never got that call. I think it's because I'm a girl.
Right.
So I got the calls where there were girls. So after Jennifer Batten left Michael Jackson, I got that call.
Did you
That's
do that audition?
I did, but I was in Lindsey's band, and I kind of had to sneak out of. I lied a little bit to him and said I
Right.
couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't come into rehearsal till later, and so the audition was for his He ended up he only doing a couple weeks of that tour because the second molestation trial happened. It was it for Dangerous? I can't remember. It might have been for Dangerous record. Um, and I did the audition was playing Beat It solo a cappella. That's all the audition was. There was nothing else.
That's all you did?
That was the required audition.
Camera, or was he in the room, or were you playing?
No, it was the MD was in the room, who I knew of, and that's how I got the audition as well, because he also knew, I'd been playing with Lindsey and some other stuff, and he knew I was, studied with Randy. I had to work on that solo, by the way, and you know who helped me with it? Gary Hoey.
Oh, amazing! Yeah.
Yeah, he was my neighbor for a long time
Oh, wow.
out here. So I went to another guy to help me with that, with the tapping and all that. And I nailed it. It was a great audition. And then we ended up going on the road. Lindsey's band, I didn't hear from them. We went on the road. We were preparing to go on the road. I went on the road and I got a call for a callback while I was on the road with Lindsey. So then I had a meeting with the road manager and I said, it's in a week or something like that. And I'm like, it's on a day off. I'll pay for it. Can I go? I'll fly early in the morning, pay for it. I'll do the audition. I'll fly back that night. And he said, if you leave this tour now, you're fired.
Right.
Just like that. The tour manager was like, you leave, you're fired. And I was like, okay.
There's a lot of risk involved.
I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving. So I didn't leave. I turned down the callback, and Becky Barksdale got the gig. She's a well-known blues player out here at the time. She was. But I think Meredith Brooks auditioned, maybe Lita Ford. And Jennifer was off doing her Jeff Beck thing, I think. So it was like Meredith, me, Lita, and Becky Barksdale, who was more of a blues player. But that was it. I mean, there might have been some other women, but I didn't know. There was no Orianthi. She wasn't even born. Right. Sorry, I didn't mean that to sound bad, rude. But yeah, so I said no, and we continued on tour. And then, I found out later that, Becky did it, and she only got to do, unfortunately, only 2 weeks of it because he had to come back home and cancel the tour and go to court. And that was it. And I was like, well, good thing I didn't quit Lindsey's band because I would have had no gig.
Right. How much longer did the Lindsey gig go on?
It went on. We opened for Tina Turner. We went, up to Canada for like 6 weeks, opened for her. So yeah, I was like, this is the right thing. That an angel was looking out for me, maybe, so.
So those are the biggest gigs you had done at that point. You'd probably done some festival dates before.
Yes. Yeah, with Precious Metal, we did some pretty big gigs. We played, some big gigs. In Mexico, we played for this huge earthquake benefit. There was like 200,000 people there. We opened for Extreme. We did a few things like that. But yeah, absolutely the biggest gigs were with Lindsey. And I went on later, like with Meredith Brooks. Oddly enough, I ended up playing her band. And we did a tour opening for Melissa Etheridge. Those were also big sheds, like Greek theater type places. But with Lindsey and Tina Turner, they were all arenas. And I was like, I'm playing on an arena stage right now.
I remember the first time I played in an arena, and it was fucking amazing because it reminded me when you look out, it looks like the gatefold of a bunch of live albums, but the
records
live, the open up that gatefold, and you're just like,
I know. And I remember the first time they clapped, I was like, it's so loud. It was like roaring. I never heard a clap that loud from my perspective of being on stage. Of course, I'd been to concerts, but from the other perspective, I'd never seen that perspective before, and I'd never heard that. It was like a roar.
None of my bands have ever heard that sort of response either.
Oh, Mike, come on.
I mean, not until I've got a gig playing with someone who was a
Yeah,
legacy.
with Duff. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah.
But it was really, yeah, I had to, I was old enough to sort of pinch myself and say, this is great. I hope it happens again. If it doesn't, I'm still, wow, okay, I've made it. I remember my brother coming to one of the shows and saying, "You've made it, Janet. You're now a rock star." I'm like, "Well, not really. Lindsey's the star." He's like, "No, you're a rock star too. You're a rock star. You're on an arena stage."
But let me ask you this. And then and LA, of course, is there's a particular brand of not anonymity, but generally speaking, these days, people don't get bothered. Like
Right.
Lindsey, for instance, could go to Starbucks and probably not get tackled or whatever.
Some people would know him, but yeah, maybe not.
Right.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you prefer as a professional musician, wouldn't you rather be a professional musician than a rock star?
Oh, I mean, I was just joking about that rock star thing, but I hear what your question is. I mean, I don't know. I have never had that experience of being famous, and I see it's funny. We watched that Britney Spears documentary last night. Very interesting.
I watched it.
Very, very interesting. And I think it depends on how, the person who's famous handles it. I like attention. I don't mind the attention. I like it. Maybe I'm a ham. I don't know.
Do you want the attention when you're on stage or do you want it all the time though?
Well, it would probably annoy me if I was just going to Starbucks, to have a cup of coffee and there was like a group of people around me. That would probably annoy me. Or to have constant cameras coming at you. I mean, that I would probably go fucking insane too. But there's levels of stardom. So a little bit autographs here and there. I like that. It's kind of cool.
In that Britney movie?
What about it?
Let's talk about that Britney movie
Well,
first.
that's just crazy. I mean, it's the same like Michael Jackson. That's just invasive and it's too much.
What about that?
You can't live like that.
What about that shitty ass, pipsqueak ass motherfucker, uh, photographer guy who's like, no, she would like ask us to leave her alone, but like for a day or something. Like,
Yeah,
what?
that
No,
was annoying. I couldn't believe he said
are
that.
you fucking kidding me? Like, I want to smash your car now.
I know. Those guys only have one thing in mind.
Money.
Getting that shot and for getting that money shot. So,
They have no regard
no.
and
No, for privacy or for any of that. And yeah, that I don't know how I would deal with that. I would probably be a recluse, you know. Um, but a little bit of notoriety or being recognized or something like that, as long as people are cool. I mean, you get the occasional people, nutcase. I mean, we got Precious Metal. That's a good name though, Precious Kettle. Precious, I love that. Precious Metal would get some weird fans.
oh, I
Definitely. Some weird, male and female. And I mean, weird fan letters, weird fans at gigs. Yeah. And you don't want that, but you can't always control all of that. So, yeah, I think that's a whole discussion, another podcast. I don't have that much experience. I've only had a little bit, here, you want your autograph, can I have your autograph or after a gig or something. So I'm happy with this. This is fine. I can go to Starbucks and nobody gives a shit about me.
like I would I'm happy. I always came home from tour and worked. I never,
Right.
even when I was pretty flush,
Yeah.
because well, I grew up pretty poor, but I
Ah,
knew 15 minutes goes by pretty quick. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And I just wasn't that I didn't believe in myself, but I didn't see myself, you know, striking oil, you
I
know.
get it. I get it. Yeah. I think, my visions of my career have been have various veins, so because I started out just being a guitar player in a band. So it was like, I'm going to be in a band. And then I became a side player, which I didn't ever know that I was going to do. And that is a different thing. You're more in the background, right? You're not getting that attention. And then I was, encouraged to do the solo thing. Then it's like, oh, I can lead a band now. I could get the attention or whatever you want to call it. And now I'm back to being in a band and also now being, kind of a producer in the studio thing. So I have had all these, experiences go a lot of different ways. I know many musicians where they have just been in a band, like their whole 20 years or whatever, right? They have no experience being a side person at all. And some people I know that are purely session musicians. They don't go on the road. They only record it in studios or they get called for sessions.
What a life.
But that's great if that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
I just sort of followed wherever, the muse took me. I just followed.
You hear that?
What is that?
You hear it?
I can't hear it on my end now.
My little, it's my little dog. He's asleep.
Oh, is he snoring?
No,
Aw.
he's like chasing
He's fucking bored from this podcast. He's like, oh my God, I fell asleep a long time ago. Too much Lindsey Buckingham. And who's Precious Metal?
rabbit in his dream or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think. I mean, if you could give a young, well, you're giving young musicians and people who have not yet explored their full potential and tapped into what their careers are going to become. But what is the advice that you give to them? Because I think I know what I would tell.
Well, I have been asked that question before, and I tell them, say yes to everything and figure it out later.
Yeah, that's it.
So of course, look, if somebody asked me to be a symphonic guitar player in the, LA Philharmonic, no, I can't do that. I'm just saying, say yes to opportunities that you may be afraid of, but you might actually be able to conquer it. And of course, be prepared for these opportunities, because I don't believe in luck. Luck is, as they say, preparedness meets opportunity. So practice playing all kinds of music. I have told this story before. I got called for like a flamenco guitar session. I don't play flamenco guitar, but I learned a couple gypsy minor scales. I went to Guitar Center. I bought a really nice nylon string. I did the session, got paid, and then I returned the guitar.
Thank you, Guitar Center.
Thank you, Guitar Center. Yeah.
You went to LA, went down to Hollywood Guitar Center, bought a bunch of shit.
Yeah, and then returned it. I mean, I've done PAs and stuff. I don't do that anymore. This was a long time ago. But yeah, I just tell people and the kids and even the ones who are older, look, just work hard, practice, take opportunities. Listen, if you fail the opportunity, you're still going to get something out of that, because if it comes around again, you're not going to fuck it up that time.
Right.
And I have fucked things up before. Trust me.
No way.
I have failed things. There's been, it's tough, and I have high expectations of myself, which I think is good. We should try to achieve excellence. We should always try for that. There is no such thing as perfection, but you should always try for excellence. Try to do your best. And then try to do your best even more again, and that's really the thing I say. Dedicate yourself, and you will have sacrifices. If you're okay with the sacrifices, do it. I'm proud of one of my students. I have to mention his name, Garrett Podgorski. He studied with me at a young age, 10. He was all metalhead, all Randy shit. He wanted to learn, and, Van Halen, Eruption, and all these, he wanted to learn all that shit. And then he got really interested in classical guitar. And I'm like, you got to go to another teacher, buddy, you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, you know, I'm like, and I'm like that. I'm like, I don't teach that. And if you want to learn how to read music, you should. So, you know, now he's like 18 or 19. I think he's 18. And, you know, he got a classical guitar scholarship at Pepperdine to study with, what the fuck is his name?
Jimmy, classical guy.
Nah, you know who he is, Christopher Parkening.
I don't know who that
Oh,
is.
you
I
need to
do
know
not.
who he is. Yeah, he's the master right now. Like when you talk about Segovia, okay, there was Segovia, and now there's Parkening. That's where it is right now, right? I think Parkening maybe even studied under Segovia. But yeah, so my student, I'm just so proud of him. He's like done classical guitar competitions. Now he got a scholarship to Pepperdine, studying under Christopher Parkening. It's great. You know, we don't have children, so these are my kids, you know,
Right.
and this is what he wants to do for his life. I don't know where it's going to take him. I don't know if he's going to teach or tour, but he's already, you know, writing his own classical pieces, and who knows? I mean, so that's great. I'm glad I'm still here to see some of that.
You will never know unless you try. And
That's another thing I would tell people too. That's good, Mike. I need to steal that.
simply because something is difficult is all the more reason to do it.
Exactly.
I think the second you look at something and say that's too difficult to do is the second, I mean, that is a slippery slope. Then what else is too difficult?
Exactly. I did find that too, along doing this project. I would listen to a track and and think to myself, I don't think I can do this track. It's the time is crazy. I can't hear anything. The guitar part's too complicated. I don't know that kind of picking. And then like 5 minutes after, I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna do this track. You know, like I'm gonna fuck this. I'm gonna do it.
I want to
I'm
go
gonna try to do it.
to the forthcoming record. How would you
Blues renewed.
know, how would you know when one of the tracks was done? You would just
That's a very good question. Well, first of all, I listened to a lot of tracks and I simply went on gut. So if I thought those are such clever lyrics or I liked the groove, that's how I chose these. And I also tried to choose songs that I'd never heard before, like more, you know, lesser known blues songs that, you know, the average musician wouldn't have heard of. And then in the arranging process, some songs didn't require drums or bass. You know, I simply went with my gut. You know, I would start mainly on guitar. I would listen to the track and I would take out my guitar, acoustic usually, and see if is there anything that I could play over this that would not take away from this track. And if I felt like this could be really cool, then I would lay down some guitar and then I would think, can it use a backbeat of some sort? You know, and I would usually do drums before bass. And what kind of drums do you know? They're all very. I'm not a drummer, so they're very simple drums. And like I said, sometimes I'm playing, you know, on the pillow and close mic'd. Some of it's not programmed, but where I'm playing it, you know, through a sample. And then I would do the bass if it needed bass, and then I would listen, and before any other color parts, do I need a color part, a color guitar? Should it be electric? Should it be acoustic? What about banjo? You know, should I play on the whole track? I mean, you know, there's not a lot of solos going on. It's these songs aren't ripe for that. You know,
when you talk about arrangement, is it purely the instrumentation, or did you take and add complete like bars in the middle of a song for instrumental breaks? Or
no, there's only one song where we did add a couple bars where we made the a break a little bit longer, but I pretty much,
uh,
for the most part, you know, 99.5% stuck to the original arrangement of their song, and I added I played instrumentation on top of it. Yeah. I mostly played live shaker and tamarines too. Did that. I mean, I'm like one woman band now, you know. And I was a little afraid about the drum thing. I started off very simple, just trying to get a beat and play to the track and try to get the time, you know, and then I was like, this might need a better sounding kick, and I wasn't at the liberty of, I could have hired a drummer, but again, I didn't want to do that. I was like, how can I do this where I'm still the one doing it? So I got, some samples and, was doing it on my iPad, or my keyboard, MIDI samples, but playing it.
Yeah.
And again, trying to follow the time, which was fucking crazy. I mean, you'll hear it when you get to hear the project. It'll be like, and it's not terrible where it's like, it's just like, oh, it's speeding up, and then it ends. It's almost like they did it on purpose in some ways.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, when you first started, just like a career, like you probably didn't really know how it was going to finish.
No.
So what's the?
I just experimented on Avalon Blues. That was the first song, or Tallahatchie River Blues. Those two were like the first two that I sort of experimented my idea. It was like, could this actually work? And that's when I only did those two, and then I got really busy. And I didn't even revisit the project for like another year. And then I had time, like in 2018, I did some more tracks. And I was like, this could be a record. This is kind of cool. This could be interesting,
I love the concept.
Yeah, well,
I'm gonna do it to Kiss albums and see if I get sued.
Yeah, yeah. See, I mean, I'm starting a whole. Look, it's not like songs haven't been remixed before. Songs have been remixed before, but and instrumentation has been added before. So this isn't that new of a concept, but usually you hear it like. Well, like a good example was the "Free as a Bird." That was a good example, because that's more like what I'm doing. But we hear a lot of like they take a like a rock song, and then a DJ will literally remix the rock song itself and then play on top of it.
Right.
They'll play more drums, more keyboards. They will add more guitar sometimes. So it's almost that same concept, but not. And it's very specific. It's genre specific to these old master recordings. And I always would say to myself, if this guy or this girl, woman, because I did male and female tracks, if they were around, would they approve of what I did to their song? And of course, I can't answer that, but I always try to think, would they think this was cool, what I did, And, who knows? But
Right.
they left us with gifts, gifts of music. And I just want to bring it out more. I'm sure I'm going to get shit from purists who are, blues purists that, what are you doing to the song? Why don't you just, cover it? And I'm like, is that the point, Or like you're ruining the character of the recording. Listen, the original. You can go listen to the original recording. It's still there. I'm just showing you a different possible take on it.
Right.
With a slightly more modern sound.
Are there any gigs that is there a dream gig? Like if you could
Well, if I could play in Paul McCartney's band.
Oh, that'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah. I love all my projects I'm doing right now, but
Sure.
I would tell the String Revolution, just this will help our band. Let me go on this tour. Yeah. I mean, that or writing songs with Jimmy Page.
That would be pretty sweet. Have you met him? I think that he's cool, but although he's got, a funny history.
He does. He likes the young ladies, young girls. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know his personal thing. That's just what I heard. No, I went to an event once though where it was a few years ago. It was so great. It was Chris Cornell interviewing Jimmy Page at
Wow.
this really cool Art Deco theater here in downtown LA because he had released his picture book. Um,
Yeah.
Jimmy Page, whatever, and it's got all these cool stories and cool pictures. And
I,
basically, if you bought a ticket, you got the book as well as an autograph. So that's yeah. I mean, that's as close to I didn't never talk to him. No, and I've never talked to him or a Beetle, but I do a cover of "Here Comes the Sun" on my acoustic, and I do this crazy fast version, kind of Tommy Emmanuel style,
yeah.
and somehow the George Harrison estate, who's controlled by Donnie Harrison, saw it. This is several years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago, and they were so impressed they tweeted it out,
Is that right?
and it got me a lot more views. And I'm part of this like film composer group thing that meets every once in a while at a club out here, and they often have special guests. And this is before pandemic, and one of the Mondays they were having Donnie Harrison as a special guest. I'm like, oh my god, I have to go to this. I have, yeah, I have to go to this one. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, and it's very casual. You can talk to people, the guests and stuff. It's like a breakfast thing. We're all eating breakfast and then they go talk. So I just fucking walked up to him and I said, dude, I'm Janet Robin, and I did a cover your dad's song, one of my favorite songs, and I did a kind of a instrumental version. It was like, oh, you're the girl that did that, and I said, yeah, I am, and I just thank you. I'm not trying to make money from it. I just wanted to show people a different version of it. He's like, no, it's cool. Yeah, we tweeted it out.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I got close to a Beetle, and he was such a nice guy. Such a nice guy.
George, your favorite Beatle?
Yes,
Yeah, me too.
my favorite Beetle, one of my favorite guitar players. Um, yeah, I mean, I would say the two bands I was most obsessed with growing up was Zeppelin and the Beatles,
Yeah.
and I was pretty obsessed with Heart as well, purely because I thought, I don't have any girls to look to, so they were my girls.
I mean, even if you lived in a world where you didn't know the difference,
Oh, I love their music anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
amazing.
Of course. Yeah. And I love her voice. Yeah. And it's not like Nancy Wilson, she doesn't play lead, but she's still an amazing acoustic guitar player.
Yeah, I
And
got to play with them.
yeah,
It was
awesome.
one of the fucking greatest nights of my life.
Awesome. Awesome. Wow. Where
We
was that?
we rehearsed with them in like one of the bungalows at the Sunset Marquee, which
Oh,
is
that's awesome.
like
Cool.
fancy enough.
Oh, I know that. I know that hotel very well. It's a nice hotel. Very nice hotel.
Okay, um,
They're cool, aren't they cool?
they're the fucking best, and
They're the shit, man. They're for
no
real.
idea how it was going to go. We showed up with our acoustics, even though
Right.
we weren't going to play acoustically
Right.
at night. We did a Elton John song.
Oh, they love Elton John. It's
It
one of
was
their favorites. Yeah.
it was like a music cares thing,
Oh, got it. Yeah. Cool.
and so we played 2 nights later, and
Yeah, they're the shit, man. They're so fucking talented. They're great songwriters too, and you know, and I still see Nancy every once in a while too at some of her own band events.
yeah,
Yeah. It's a great mentor to me, and she came to some of our gigs when I was in Lindsey's band. She was very happy for me. They come in and out of your lives. You know how these people, operate. It's in and out of your lives. That's fine. I have always been like, people are there for a reason, and then they're not there for your, and it's everything I think that has happened to me has happened for a reason and has happened purely from my decisions
yeah,
that
yeah.
my choices that I made. Yeah.
You're awesome.
You're awesome, and I love your
I
questions.
like you.
I like you too. I could seriously sit here and talk to you. Get a coffee. I could sit here and fucking talk to you about more shit. I mean, there's a ton of shit that happened in Lindsey's band that turned me into the musician I am now. Like I told you, he was hard on me. He's tough, man. He's a perfectionist. Those cats from the 70s, they might have been doing a lot of drugs and shit, but they were fucking perfectionists.
Well, cocaine has a way of making you focus.
It's true.
And
Yeah. Up all night and do 25 takes until you fucking get it right. I mean, I'm just for example, that's how they were, and he brought that vibe, to that experience to me. And but yeah, we can wrap it up. I just wanted to mention that because I think precious metal kick-started my career for sure on one professional level, and I don't demean it at all. And I had that experience of being on record label and that whole thing. But it was like going to grad school, when I got the Lindsey Buckingham gig,
yeah.
trying to get your PhD. And it took it up to another level that I had never experienced before. And it almost killed me. And I like to tell the story. The reason I'm on anxiety medication now is because of the Lindsey Buckingham gig. And I've never come out of it since,
You have anxiety dreams about that gig?
Oh, every once in a while that gig or a show or something will pop into my head. But no, it made me look at so many things and, because what happened was I almost got fired. There's a couple of us that almost got fired. So not to belabor this conversation anymore,
No,
but the specific instance that I want to tell you about, he would record our rehearsals on ADATs back then, okay?
yeah.
Separate tracks. Everybody was on separate tracks, vocal and guitar or whatever instrument. If it was, percussion or drums, everybody had a separate track. But we didn't know that. I mean, we did not know that we were being recorded.
Right.
And so after we would be done with rehearsals, he would sit there and listen to everybody's track. And, I guess it became apparent that some of us were slacking a bit, The time was so he sat down with me one time. He pulled me aside and he said, "Your time is not good on this part or this section, and you're singing flat on here, and you keep making the same mistake on this part." And I'm like, and I literally like, "Where's my diaper?" Because I'm gonna take fucking, I'm gonna lose my shit now, And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, no problem, He's like, "Well, you need to fix all that, or I'm gonna have to replace you." Like he just said it like that, and I was like, I never heard that before. Like nobody ever said something like that to me.
Right.
Yeah, I almost lost it. Actually, it did. I think I went home and started crying, and was like, "What the fuck?" And so apparently I found out I wasn't the only one. There was a couple of other, like 3 of us, I think. I was one of them though, and I had never had the experience of this kind of gig. Not that precious metal wasn't trying to be good and perfect, but it's different, when you're in a band. I'm being hired and being paid.
Not to fire each other in that band.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'm being paid for this too, and it was getting down to the wire because this was when we had only a few weeks to get our shit together for the Jay Leno show, and this was going to be basically the debut of his band. And so we all got together, including the ones that weren't, berated. And they said, we're going to help you guys out. We're going to do secret rehearsals.
Wow.
And here's what you need to do. You need to tape, the rhythm tracks, and you need to play to it at home and tape yourself. And that was when I got a little 4-track, like a little Fostex 4-track. And then you need to get the other parts of the harmonies on that 4 track, and then you need to sing to it, and you need to tape it and listen back, and whatever else you can do. So the other whatever else you can do was me going to vocal lessons every day and going to, again, guitar lessons.
Wow.
So I just hit the fucking wire and just boom. I was obsessed with getting all these parts perfect, including maintaining the other parts, going to lessons nearly every day. And he left the band alone for about a week, 10 days. And when he came back, it was all there. And then he pulled me aside and he said, I knew you could rise to the occasion. That's what he said to me.
Yeah.
He said, good job, Janet. I knew you could rise to the occasion. I'm like, what the fuck? I feel like I'm in university here. Like it was so stressful.
I mean, imagine being in a fucking Prince's band.
Oh,
they would have just fired you.
oh yeah, you wouldn't had a chance. But I think Lindsey knew what he was getting into. Again, he didn't remember. I told you he didn't hire seasoned session musicians. He hired. We all had experiences on the road and been in bands, but he didn't want that.
Someone who was doing dive bombs on their Floyd Rose
Right.
year before.
Yes, that's all I was doing. I mean, I was professional in the studio, but it really opened my eyes to reaching that excellence. And yeah, I mean, I didn't know about medication back then. But yeah, when I started doing my solo thing and singing, and I got so insecure. I mean, I just, and I was obsessively taping myself, and it still happens now. I'm not going to lie to you. It still happens.
So,
but you should do that. If you're working on a new song or you're getting ready to go on the road, you should do everything. I play to a click in the rehearsal studio because most of my shows are solo acoustic. I'm playing to a click in the studio, in rehearsal studio. I'm going to vocal lessons. I'm making sure I warm up before my rehearsals. I mean, everybody does that. All the pros do that.
Because you still give a fuck.
Of course. And I'm being paid for shows. I don't want to suck. And I have sucked a few times. I have. I've been like, oh, that sucked. That fucking show sucked. I mean, then you're like, well, I'm not going to do that again. I need to I need to get rid of that song and replace it with another one. I mean, it's a constant, isn't it, Mike? It's just constant learning, I guess that's why I like it so much, because you're constantly developing. Yeah, you get down on yourself, you get insecure, you get upset, but then you move on, right? You move on and you learn something else.
You have breakthroughs.
Yeah, and then you can be then proud of yourself for those things. But yeah, at some point you're going to be beat down again. I mean, this karma, man, that's how it is.
Are you the same kind of taskmaster in?
I knew this question was coming.
Well, I mean,
in String Revolution.
Yeah, I mean, you bring experience that you have before. Like I heard Jimmy Jam. Do you know the?
Oh yeah, I know who he is. Sure.
Talk about the story of playing in the time, and I didn't realize that was a band assembled by Prince.
Yeah, he put that together with Morris Day, right, or whatever. Yeah,
and that those recordings are all Prince.
Yeah, he does all of it. Yeah, he's played all the instruments, I think, too.
And then he would be in the room at rehearsal and just nailing him, just like making him do things that, whatever, just similarly.
No, I get it. Yeah.
Although he did eventually get fired.
Even Jimmy Jam got fired. Damn it.
Got fired.
Yeah.
You're a taskmaster, are you?
I became more of a taskmaster when I did my solo project, and I would hire people to play for me, for band gigs out here or something. Yes, a little bit of a taskmaster, but I think I was a little bit softer because I had also been in their shoes.
Sure.
So, I always paid them on time, and I tried to be soft. nice. But yeah, sometimes I lose my shit a little. But yeah, with the band with String Revolution, um, they've become more taskmasters to me because I'm the oldest, and I think I just, it's not that I don't want the band to be great. Of course, I think I'm older and they're a little bit younger, and they're like, you're messing up on this part, Janet. You keep messing. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm back in Lindsey Buckingham's band again, you know? So, so I started off sort of being a taskmaster in assembling the band and getting my ideas across, but it truly is a diplomatic democratic system, and it's a voting democratic system too. If we have a tie, um yeah, somebody has to come over to our side. I forget what happens. We had some kind of thing set up for that. But yeah, if it's 3 against 1, that's it. And sometimes I've lost, and I don't cry about that. But yeah, they've taught me a lot. Um, Maybe because I'm older and I'm just like, I got so many things on my hands. I need to pay attention to my practicing more, you know,
Right.
not take things for granted and stuff. You gotta always stay on top of it. So I think seriously, yeah, it's like I've come up with these things, these projects to constantly try to challenge me. Because listen, if I was a guitar teacher 24/7, yeah, I would go insane, like
Right.
literally insane. Because I am a teacher, but I don't want to be that. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. I think that's great. But I would go absolutely insane because I'm a writer, I'm a songwriter, I'm an entertainer, a live performer, and XYZ. So I keep it to a minimum. Like I cannot, it's right now I have a waiting list. Like I can't have any more students than I have right now. Um, and yeah, because I don't want to keep messing up on a part in the string revolution. I gotta practice more.
You think that this is Mr.
Hi, hi, puppy.
Hey, Mr. Big. He usually makes an
What's his name?
that's Mr. Big.
Mr. Big, like the band?
Well, his name is Biggie. He showed up with a name tag that said Biggie, but Mr. Big sounds more regal.
I love Mr. Big.
He's about,
Big.
13 pounds or so. He likes to sit
Oh,
upright like a person like this. So,
yeah. He loves his daddy.
oh, he does. Hi, Mr. Big. How are you?
Speaking of Mr. Big, do you know the story of Precious Metal and Mr. Big Stuff, that song, and Donald Trump?
No.
Well, clearly you didn't do your background check on
Well,
me.
I want to hear stories. I don't want to hear stories from Wikipedia.
Well, it is on Wikipedia, but that whole debacle is on there. So you don't know that story. I've told it before in other interviews, but you should know about it just because you should know
Tell
what
me.
happened. So the very last record that Precious Metal got to do in 1989, we decided to do a cover of Mr. Big Stuff. Who do you think you are?
Yeah, yeah.
And we did it like glam rock style, big drums and Mutt Lange drums and that Def Leppard sound. And the president of our label was friends with Donald Trump.
Uh,
Okay, but this is 1989.
right.
So he was sort of a funny celebrity.
He was always a fuck.
Yeah, hang on one second. Where's my phone? Yeah, I just got to text this person. Hang on one second. Yeah. Hang on, Mike. Yeah, we're going overboard. Um, podcast. Okay, so he knew Donald Trump and he thought it would be funny to have him in the video. So Donald agreed to do it for a certain amount of money. I don't know, 30 grand, which was supposedly going to donate to a charity. And we flew out to New York, and we just shot scenes with him. Like, and I went with the singer, but it was really mostly scenes with him and her. You know, like her dancing on his desk, and she's like, Mr. Big Stuff, you know, and it was funny. It was cute. So there was, you know, there was some press, and we did some of that, and they did take pictures. I was in some of the pictures, but yeah, I mean, he did the whole side boob thing, you know, where he put his hand underneath, and, you know, he squeezed me, and he's like, oh, you got a hard body, no cellulite there. Yeah, so that happened, but I mean, now there's probably cellulite there. But but back then I was 21 when he said that to me, that was creepy. That was a little
You
creepy.
were
But
too old for him.
oh, what?
You were
Yeah, I was too old for him. I was definitely too old for Jeffrey Epstein. Um,
Mm.
But anyway, yeah, I thought that was really weird and it creeped me out. But anyway, we shot the video. We had it all ready to go. There was a big like Headbangers Ball premiere that was going to happen. This whole thing, it was really going to help break our band. And literally, like 2 weeks before all of this was going to happen, he called the label and said, I want more money. I want $200,000 now. And if you don't pay me, you can't release the video. He hadn't signed off on it yet.
Oof. The art of the deal.
Yeah, I don't understand. You know, we're just a little band, you know, what the fuck? You know, so the label, which was a subsidiary of Capitol, they were not going to pay.
Right.
They said no.
Well, it's good they don't negotiate with terrorists.
Right? Yeah. They said no, but it crushed our band. We had to reshoot the video with like a double where you only see the tie. And none of it made sense, you know, and MTV put it out, but, you know, grunge came and then the whole thing just died. Yeah. So there's my story about Donald Trump.
Last thing, when all this stuff came up, you know, 6 years ago or whatever, when he, you know,
Yeah. Sorry. Yes.
Did any of your residual resentment for him? Because I imagine you fucking.
Wait. Oh no, tons of shit happened, Mike. I mean, Billboard contacted me and the singer for an interview. The Huffington Post. We were doing all these interviews. They're out there online. You can read them. That they dug up all this shit about him when he was running, and we told the story.
Right.
You know, we told it how it was. But we're not trying to make any money off of it or anything like that. But I do have the footage. I have the original footage. I don't know how I got that, but I have it somewhere.
On a VHS.
Yeah. No, it's on the other form, that the big.
Oh.
Remember back then they used to have the big. I don't know. Anyway, I have it somewhere. But yeah, we had to tell that story again, and yeah, I don't want to get political and stuff, but no, yeah, I didn't vote for him. I mean, I have personal.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I mean, it was yeah. He ruined yeah the band deal, and he was totally inappropriate with me, and clearly things haven't changed. That's my opinion, but yeah, I don't want to insult any of your other listeners out there. But
they've heard me say make enough disparaging remarks about our former president to know where I stand. Fuck that guy is what I say.
Yeah.
The art of the feel really is what it should have been called.
And I tell you,
yeah, I'm sorry you had that.
Just hold on 1 second. Just hold on. Don't go away. I have something here, and I don't know if this podcast is going to be on, if you're going to show the video part, or you're just going to have the audio.
I will.
Where the fuck is this shit? You will have the video? Okay, hold on. You just hold on there.
Oh, I'm holding the horses.
And wait, here's another one. Wait for it. And those of you in New York, you will know this club. One of my favorite clubs called the Cat Club. Aren't you out there, Mike? You're out there.
Yeah, we're up in the Hudson Valley now.
Oh, I love that area. Well, the Cat Club was in the city. It doesn't exist anymore. But that's a shirt that I used to wear all the time. There you go. There's my proof.
There it is. Uh, well, you,
There you have it.
there it is. There it is.
There it all is.
Uh,
But this was fantastic. I really enjoyed talking with you.
I really appreciate you giving me so much time. I do feel
Yeah.
like, you know, doing the podcast has been just it's something I can focus time on, but it's also super just socially therapeutic because
Yeah. It's yeah, and it's good I think for people are listening to a lot of podcasts cuz we're all at home fucking sitting around and shit.
having conversations with people, I'll just say, isn't always as easy and free feeling and natural as speaking with you here this evening.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. No, I liked talking with you. Often it has to do with who's hosting it and the interviewer, than the interviewee. But yeah, you're a comfortable guy, and we have similar backgrounds, and you get it. A lot of the things I was talking about, and I just want to spread my experiences around there for people, just to take take from whatever they can from it if it will help them with anything in their life. That would be fantastic.
Well, I'll say it again. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you. And I'm working on that Elliot Smith. No, not Elliot Smith. God, I love him.
yeah,
I love him. What the fuck?
we won't talk about the song.
Okay, we won't talk
We
about it.
keep those. We keep
Oh,
those
secret. Okay, secret.
secret. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, well, I'm working on it. I'm practicing, taping, playing to metronome.
Well, keep keep me updated on the release of the record.
Oh, I will.
Uh,
Yeah,
I, you know,
for
I'll.
sure. Yeah, I would like some love for that. Yeah, I want to do as much press and stuff about it as possible. I'm happy to talk about it again with you in specifics or whatever you want. But I'll certainly send you a copy when it comes out.
I will.
Well, whatever. It'll probably be like a link now. Nobody has fucking CDs anymore.
Right. What are you gonna do? Yeah,
That's
who knows? Maybe you're gonna press vinyl.
I did think about it. If we don't get a deal, I may just go ahead and do that.
If you get a deal, you might.
Well, yeah, if the label's up for doing something like that, I mean, if there's any project that would sound really cool on vinyl, it would be this.
That's
So,
what I was thinking.
yeah, that's potential. But yeah, you'll hear it, and hopefully you'll be like, "Hi, that's exactly how I thought it would be. That sounds awesome." I hope you say
I'll bet it is.
that. Who knows? Putting it out, throwing it against the wall.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much, and have a great night. Oh, I'll send you an email, but if I could get, if you have any photos that I can mangle to make some posts and
Yeah,
thumbnails and stuff, that would be
yeah, I got tons of photos. I can send you some JPEGs. No
awesome.
problem. Yeah.
All right.
This,
Have a
this,
great night.
this was my
Oh,
today.
that's great.
This was my guitar therapy today. Thank you very much. No, that was great, and we'll be in touch. And I hope all your listeners enjoyed this.
I'm sure that they will.
Awesome.
All right. Have a great night.
See you. You too. Bye.